let's get into my top 10 after this last week. 10-1 as always. And I'm going to start at number 10 with Texas Tech. I thought that was a big win over K-State. I really did. In particular, because early in that game, K-State kind of answered the bell. They were playing much better football than they were early in the year. And Texas Tech, they grew up in some ways on the road. They are not playing, I don't think, their best football, but they're playing really tough-oriented football. They're running it. They're doing everything that you need to do. Their defense is playing quality. So I love that they went on the road and they got that win. They stay at 10. BYU is at 9. They play at Texas Tech this week. Can't wait for that game. That's going to be a monster game. I think BYU is as gritty as any team in the country. Kalani Sitake, probably the most underrated coach in America. I know he doesn't get talked about a lot in some of these job openings, more on that in a little bit, but he probably should. It's one of those things that is just such a good fit at BYU that I think people, and maybe rightly so, just assume that he wouldn't take another job, and maybe he wouldn't. At number 8, I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I actually am dropping them a spot. That was an ugly win. You all think that I have Notre Dame too high anyways. I'm going to keep them in there because at their best, they're absolutely a top 10 team. Not a doubt in my mind. Was not great on Saturday. It was ugly. So I dropped them down a spot, keep them in my top 10 at number 8. At number 7, Ole Miss took care of business. So I still like Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss is a guy that I think fits Lane Kiffin really well. Now, one thing to watch out for Ole Miss down the stretch is you're seeing a lot of other coaches that are high profile that will absolutely be targeted and mentioned for all these job openings, and they're taking their name out of the hat. 3 specifically. Dan Lanning said absolutely not. I'm at Oregon. Matt Rule signed an extension at Nebraska, and Kurt Signetti signed an extension at Indiana. So the longer that Lane Kiffin doesn't sign an extension at Ole Miss or come out and absolutely, emphatically, and definitively, like Dan Lanning did, turn these jobs down and say, I'm not going anywhere, the distraction is going to creep up at Ole Miss. That would be my worry for Ole Miss and this team, is the distraction of what's going to go on. Because listen, Florida is coming after Lane Kiffin, period. LSU will absolutely talk with and try to interview Lane Kiffin. There's not a doubt in my mind. In fact, I know one of them for a fact. So the longer this goes, that could be a distraction, just something to watch out for. Georgia is going to be at 6. They win another close one. What to make of this team, man? It's like it's Georgia, but is it Georgia? I think that we get too wrapped up in Kirby's history at Georgia and the great teams. And so are we measuring this team against that? Because they are clearly not the 21-22 Georgia Bulldogs. Not even close. They're much more similar, almost identical to last year's version, which had a lot of flaws. And you could even say maybe in some respects overachieved, but then got exposed because of those flaws by Notre Dame in the playoff. I think Georgia just has a high floor. We talk about this in the draft, NFL draft conversation all the time. And we talk about like high ceiling, low floor, a guy that has high potential, but man, if it goes south, it could go really south. Well, I think Georgia right now is one of those teams that has a low ceiling, really high floor, because they're really talented. They're really talented, but there's something missing. And so like, it's going to be hard to beat them, but they have some like major flaws. How many games are we going to sit here and just be like, well, they got to come back in this game, and they got to come back in this game, and they got to come back in this game. And we can say like, they're hard to kill, they're resilient. All of that is true. But at what point does then it come back to haunt them? At some point it will. At some point it will. Because Florida's got a chance to kill Georgia. Now they didn't. They drive it all the way down. It's inside of 10 minutes. They've got a 3-point lead. Lagway is playing pretty well in this game. He's scrambling around. It's 2nd and 2 at the 19-yard line going in. If they go in and score, and make this a 10-point game, man. You know, this Georgia offense, maybe they can come back. Sure. We've seen them do some remarkable things, namely at Tennessee early this year. But it makes it really difficult. They stop them on second down. Back doesn't get aggressive. Now it's third down. Lagway looks like he gets it. They mark him short. Now it's fourth down. And Florida goes for it. Right decision. I firmly believe this was the right decision. And they just hand the football off right into the middle of the offensive line, right where Georgia had shifted into the middle. And they run it right into the teeth of the Georgia defense and get stopped. And guess what's going to happen? Of course, Georgia's going to go down and score. Like, that's as soon as they stop them on fourth down. And, you know, this was the discussion after the game from the Florida side about that fourth down.
No second thoughts. I think we'll take a look on film and see what happened. I haven't had a chance to look at or review it yet, but obviously critical play for us. But never going to second guess it. And our guys, we had to go for it. We had to go for it. If you kick a field goal, you're still down. If they go down and score, you're still down a point. So we'll take a look and see where we went wrong, but no second guessing as far as what the play was called.
Yeah, so obviously that's correct. You have to go for it because a field goal, it's still a one-possession game, and a touchdown puts you down a point. I get it. It's not about going for it on fourth down. It's just like, did Lagway have a read and he gave it? Because it didn't look like he had a read. If I'm calling that, DJ Lagway is going to be the focal point. It's either quarterback power with as many lead blockers as I can get in front of Lagway, or it's Lagway with a decision with a player in conflict on the edge, like a zone read, where he's reading the defensive end. Well, if he was reading it, he made a poor decision because there's nobody on the end of the line. And he just hands the football off, no lead blocker. Like, they're running duo. I know that doesn't mean anything to anybody in here, but like duo is basically like a non-lead style kind of double team. Some people call it power without the puller. You're kind of like blocking down, and then the linebacker has to kind of pick his gap. And it's like, is duo really your call right there? What are we doing? Like, why isn't that a read? Why isn't it quarterback power? That's what you're going to have to go back and ask yourself if it's from the Florida perspective. All right, let's move on. Top 5 now. At number 5, I've got Oregon. I think people have questions about Oregon, and that's fine. I think that there are questions about a lot of these teams, by the way. Oregon's still a very good football team. Bama in that passing game is so good. I still love Bama. I still love Ty Simpson. They have to run the football better at some point. I know their fans clamor like they run it fine with Jam Miller, and I disagree. I think that they're going to need to run it better, and their defense needs to get better. A&M is a complete football team. That's clearly a top 3 football team. Love what Marcel Reed has done. They've won in several different ways. Can't wait to watch them down the stretch. Indiana is going to be my number 2 team. They beat Maryland 55-10 behind 367 rush yards. That's their 5th 300-yard rush game of the season. That offensive line is going to win the Joe Moore Award. That's going to be your best offensive line in the country. I mean, there are no holes with Indiana. And they've been battling some injuries now. Aiden Fisher didn't play, their linebacker. Surratt was battling, I think, a hamstring at some point on Saturday at Maryland. He's their wide receiver. He's a very, very good player, All-American caliber player. He's going to be in line for a Biletnikoff finalist style. If they're healthy, that's going to be a tough team to beat. The 2 best teams in the country are Indiana and my number 1 team, Ohio State. And they are on a collision course for the Big Ten championship game. Those are your 2 best teams in the country. I think all due respect to Texas A&M, which is right there as well. But man, the complete nature of both Indiana and Ohio State, pretty significant, and they stand out to me. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. And you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.